Alright everyone, it's time to talk about manifest observable bullshit, which is basically what Patreon has delved into. Them making a response, finally, belatedly, they probably shouldn't have bothered at that point, to the Sargon debacle. I'd just like to point out, and I know that people from Patreon, because they go around to dig through people's trash on other sites, they'll probably see this video because it's about Patreon and I use their service. The response that you made seems completely tone deaf. In a number of ways. Number one, you don't even address the fundamental question that Sargon has, which is why does your terms of service, at least in the past, not explicitly have anything to do with off-site behavior? Number one, why won't you even address the concept of manifest observable behavior being lacking in a situation which was clearly satirical if taken in proper context? Number three, when are you actually going to address the fact that users such as myself, who have not broken any TOS, are not suspected to have broken any TOS, use your site as a main form of income, or at least a major form of income in my case, and have hemorrhaged money? I've lost a quarter almost of all of the income that I was making on your site. That goes towards my student loans, it goes towards rent, it goes towards office supplies, taxes, everything else at this point in year. Uncle Sam basically claims it all. It seems a little bit odd and tone deaf for Patreon not to even bother remarking, oh, we understand your concern, yeah, we're trying to do better or something. Isn't it obvious with the amount of money that you must have lost as a site? What proportion of the site's income has now disappeared? You've got multiple large users. Sam Harris is gone, one of your top users. Peterson is one of your top users, and Rubin. Both of them are considering leaving or may have already left in the last 24 hours. Tim Pool's considering leaving. I'm considering leaving. If it gets to the point where it's no longer a viable way to make any substantial proportion of income, I'm going to have no choice. Whether I liked your service or not, even people that are totally mundane, like let's say they don't care about politics, they think Sargon's a Nazi or something. Okay, wonderful. When they see their donations dry up because people are hemorrhaged off the platform, when the platform begins collapsing or becomes insolvent, that affects them too. What are all these progressives that use your site to make money going to think when they're no longer able to raise money on your site because there's no one using it? And Patreon is tenuously on the edge of the cliff, overlooking a steep drop, the same sort of drop I was looking on what's it called, Graphtreon, I think it is. It's a project someone's running, the EEV blog or something like that. People are posting it earlier, and I looked at it, and in fact I've got it up right now. Let me show you my metrics, or at least tell you. I've lost 343 patrons, mostly over the last couple of weeks. I've lost $1,023 per month as a result of this. If I'm looking at the graph of my rank, that's fallen steeply too. You see, there is a disproportionate impact on people who have associated with Sargon or do politics and do sort of similar-ish content. But I mean, I'm looking at people losing hundreds of dollars a month too, that they're talking about this, and they're not political. Some gaming channel or something like, oh yeah, why am I all of a sudden losing money? This is going to have a major impact on the platform for the foreseeable future. And Patreon's response all along has been completely bungled. And then it was shown that the leader of your trust and safety team isn't PR or anything like that, is a banker essentially, is a person engaged with the fiscal side of things. Why is your trust and safety team being led by someone whose qualifications should put them in as head of accounting or something like that? Or developing algorithms or something along those lines? Why is the person apparently running your health and safety team involved with like basically processing payments more than anything else? Well, no wonder there's been a bit of a tone-deaf response. You get someone who deals with money instead trying to deal with people. We are actual people, the creators on your platform, and I think Patreon has begun to forget that. I think ultimately it is out of ignorance. I think Patreon, as a for-profit entity, obviously, cares about the creators to the extent that they're making money off of our content creation. We're using you as an intermediary in order to be able to take donations from our fans. And by the way, some people have said, well, you're contributing to the mess by continuing to use Patreon. Some of us are not at financial liberty to just suddenly cut and run and say, okay, well, yeah, fuck this. I'm still making, what, $3,000 a month. Fuck it. I don't need to pay bills. I don't need to worry about student loans or eating or anything like that. Fuck it. No, I don't need to worry about having end-year tax money. fuck it and fuck me, basically. Some of us aren't at liberty to do that. Now, if you do want to support my work, or the work of many other people, most people have some sort of other thing that they do. Like, I write books, link in the description of my books blogs. If you don't want to use Patreon, I don't have a PayPal, like, tip jar set up or anything. You can just buy books. I make money off that. And then there's the compounded problem, which is that Amazon, literally, in the same week as Sargon got banned and this whole fiasco began to unravel Patreon as a site, in that same week, Amazon fully absorbed CreateSpace, which means that the search algorithms for books are different now, which means that my sales there dropped as well. Not to a huge extent, but it's less than it was before. Yeah, so feeling the squeeze a little bit as opposed to the past. Like, you look at a graph of anyone on Patreon. They've got a platform, a brand, they're growing. I added over 100,000 subscribers in this last year, and it's still growing. It's at about 330,000 now. What was it at the beginning of the year? Wasn't it a little bit under 200,000? It's a huge amount of growth. Commensurate with that, the amount that I was making, cross-platform as well was growing. The problem is now that's an entire year's gain was reversed in a couple of weeks. Patreon doesn't appear to think that this is a problem. Oh, well, yeah, it's just every political commentator plus a bunch of gamers and philosophical figureheads and people, news junkies and stuff. It's just a large proportion of all the people that are popular on our platform losing huge amounts of money. We're not going to alienate them all by being tone deaf to the situation. Oh, by the way, it's the free market and shit. It's not a free market. 3 different times now with Maker Support, which again might have been a scam, Patreon, and now with Subscribestar, every time someone tries to make an alternative, regardless of what TOS they've actually imposed on those sites, especially in the case of Subscribestar, where people were criticizing it for having TOS that virtually were the same as Patreon. Oh, no, we're not going to process payments for you. Not allowed. It's an attempt by the banking system to create a monopoly. That's all it is, in order to control what's actually going on the internet. There are people who think that this is a free market and that encouraging this is like revolutionary or liberal activity. It's hilarious to see. There's no free market in Silicon Valley. It's like 6 or 7 fucking companies running everything into the ground. And they're making dumb decisions, and they're endangering and destabilizing the internet, and people who support these actions only do so because of a long-standing campaign by a bunch of political craptivists and a bunch of billionaires to dehumanize content creators. Hell, they still want you to believe that PewDiePie's an anti-Semite, so you can see the intelligence of these individuals. So yes, a little bit upsetting that Patreon has chosen. They finally respond, and it's even more tone-deaf than before. Why'd you even bother? You should have just ignored the issue. Like, we're going to lose more money as a result of this because even more people are going to say, okay, that's it. It's a fucking, there's no reason to use the site anymore. And by the way, the more people want to use something else, the more they're going to try to innovate and break free of the containment of Silicon Valley. Eventually there will be a side processor that will be viable, will not end up deplatformed, and it'll end up potentially displacing your company. Which also affects people like me. Then we have to jump to a whole new platform, get used to a whole new set of rules, a whole new set of the way things are, how you actually get donations, how does it pay out, and yada yada yada. Replace all the fucking links cross-platform. You know how long that's going to take me when that ends up happening? You know how long it actually takes? Some of these sites you have to do it manually. You can't do it. It's not like on YouTube where you can batch change all the descriptions of all your videos. It's not like YouTube. So yeah, I'll see you in 5 or 6 fucking years since I have thousands of videos on 4 different platforms now. Wonderful time. So yeah, Patreon's response leaves a little bit of a sour taste, I think, in the mouth. I feel sorry for Sargon. At this point, though, I also feel sorry for literally fucking everyone else on the platform getting fucked by Patreon. It doesn't make any sense. Your response doesn't make sense. Your response should have been, on further review, we've reinstated Sargon. We realize he didn't break TOS. We apologize to people. Please give us more money. That's essentially what you should have begged, like a corporation's supposed to. You're supposed to make money. Nobody cares if you're taking a cut of people's payments or something. You should encourage that. Sargon was pulling in a lot of money. That's about all. Peace out.